Hi everyone, and welcome to the second orientation video. My goal for this video is to talk about the way that I grade and how it is that you can earn various letter grades in this course. So the first thing to know is that I probably grade quite a bit differently from math classes that you've taken in the past. So you might think back to, when you've taken a math test where, maybe the total was out of 100 points and you go through each question, you can see how many points you lost on each of the questions. And at the end, you get a score at the top that says something like, 79 out of 100, right? And you would say, all right, well, I got a 79%. What is that? That's like a C plus or a B minus, right? Something in there. And so that kind of gave you some sense of how you did, right? But it didn't give you a lot of specifics about what you did well and what you still need to improve upon. So I use a system that's completely different than that called standards-based grading. And in standards-based grading, what you do is rather than giving you points on problems, what I do instead is I give you assessments over topics. And then for each topic, I assign you a level of mastery based upon how you performed on that assessment and for each of the topics. And so those levels of mastery are expert, proficient, developing, novice, and not yet. So you get one of those 5 levels of mastery for every topic that appears on any assessment that I give. You'll remember from the first video that when I talk about topics, I use the word standard. All right, so whenever I say standard 1, standard 2, that just means topic 1, topic 2. So let me take you through a few documents here to kind of give you a sense of what's happening in this particular grading system. So we'll go to important links and documents, and I'm going to go ahead and click on rubrics. So for every standard in the class, I create a rubric that tells you what it looks like to be an expert or proficient, developing, novice, or not yet. This first one is just a kind of a general rubric to give you an overall sense of kind of what each of these means. So in the expert, the ability to accurately address the most complex and advanced problems within an objective has been demonstrated. So you can really do any problem I throw at you, even ones that are a little bit more complicated. If you're proficient, the ability to apply concepts appropriately and with accuracy to address standard problems has been demonstrated. On the most complex problems, there is a flaw in either the synthesizing of the many strategies required or the execution of some complex task. What does that mean? That means you can knock out of the park any bread and butter type question I throw at you. You can do really well on really most all questions, but you might make little errors here and there on some of the harder ones. If you're developing, it says factual information about a topic is demonstrated fully or almost fully. Appropriate methodology is used to solve basic problems, although minor flaws in the execution might be present. On more complex problems, the ability to connect the concept or standard with previous topics or use many steps to solve the problem has not been demonstrated. So you can do really basic problems. You can kind of get the general idea across, but there's more mistakes involved, and really you're not making too much progress on the most difficult types of questions. If you're at a novice, it says that a basic understanding of the objective has been demonstrated. Evidence is typically limited to like recalling factual information about some, but not all aspects of the topic. And there's either no ability demonstrated to apply the concept appropriately to problems, or there is some fundamental flaw in the execution. So this is one where you are demonstrating some knowledge of the topic, but really not able to make too much progress on most kind of questions that I might ask you. And then not yet means that, either you've left it blank or the things that you have put in response to questions that I've asked aren't really relevant to that topic. So that just gives you an idea of generally what I'm looking for. But in order for it to be more helpful to you, I've written a rubric for each standard, right? So for adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions, I share what it means to be expert, proficient, developing, novice, and not yet. And so you can look at these as you go into each studying each standard so that you kind of know what you're aiming for. All right, so that's what that document's all about. Now, what's going to happen is you are going to demonstrate your level of mastery through assessments. Now, in the first video, I talked about how you're going to come to campus to take assessments in a proctored testing environment. So what's going to happen, and I'll just be very concrete about this first, what's going to happen first is standards 1 through 7. So the first assessment you're going to take is going to cover standards 1 through 7. So what will happen on that day is you'll come into campus and take your assessment. I'll get those assessments from the test proctoring center and I'll grade them. But you're not going to have a score at the top. What you're going to have is 7 different levels of mastery indicated throughout the assessment, right? So no score at the top, but you'll see, next to standard 1 problems, you'll see one of those 5 levels of mastery. And next to standard 2, a different score on your level of mastery. So you'll have 7 different levels of mastery for that assessment. And I'll record those in the gradebook. I'll send you back that assessment so you'll know what all your scores are. And then importantly, roughly a week later, you are going to have the opportunity to improve your scores on the standards where you didn't do as well as you wanted. So one of the keys to this approach to grading that I call standards-based grading is that number 1, I'm grading you more holistically. I'm trying to give you an idea of to what extent you understand the material. But the second thing is that your score is not set in stone, that you can take the assessment process and learn from it. So just to be concrete about these first couple dates, if I go to the calendar, the standards 1 through 7 assessment is on January 20th. I grade those, get it back to you, and then notice a week later on the 27th is the reassessment. And so you come back to campus just like you did for the first assessment, and then you can reassess on the topics where you want to improve your score. Now, for topics where you did well on the first assessment, you do not need to reassess on those. Okay. So it's not like just taking a test over again. It's being very targeted, saying, hey, let's say I did really well on standards 1 through 5, but 6 and 7 I struggled on more. Then a week later, you can come back and just reassess over standards 6 and 7. When you reassess over a standard, if you do better, then I keep your better score that you got on the reassessment. So kind of the philosophy behind this is, does it really matter if it took you a little longer to understand something if ultimately you're able to show me that you understand it? Okay. So when I talk about, the idea that I believe in the growth mindset, that's me putting that into practice here, is giving you opportunities to improve as you go throughout the quarter. Now, it's certainly completely to your advantage to do as well as you can that first time. So you don't want to treat that first assessment lightly, because after you take that assessment, we're still moving on to new material, right? And so you're going to have to juggle not only the new material you're learning, but then studying to reassess on older material, right? So you want to do as well as you can on the first one just to lighten your load. But the point is, the reassessment's there to allow you to improve your scores. I'm going to go into a little more detail as we get closer to this first assessment about kind of the nuts and bolts of when I grade it, exactly what are you going to see on your paper and all that sort of thing. But right now, I just want you to know, I give you an assessment. I assign a level of mastery to each standard that's on that assessment. And then about a week later, you have the opportunity to reassess and improve your scores. And it completely replaces your old score. There's no penalty, right? The way I like to put it is, probably some of you took your driver's test the first time and didn't pass, right? Okay, so you went and you studied more, and then you took it again and you did pass. So you don't have a different license than everybody else, though, right? So the idea is, okay, yeah, you didn't show proficiency the first time, but does it really matter if you ultimately do show that proficiency and show that you have those skills? All right, so let me go back to the course page here. All right. Now, when it comes time for that initial assessment, um, one of the really important things that I want you to really take advantage of is this assignment. It's called the Standards 1 through 7 Assessment Preparation. And every assessment's going to have one of these. So this is just an assignment. It's like your written assignments in that you're going to do the problems on notebook paper, take pictures, and then upload those pictures here. And so let me click on this so you can see what this is all about. So what you see at first here is just a large list of practice questions. And next to each practice question, it labels what standard it's covering. Standard 1, Standard 2, and so on. You go through and you do these practice questions on notebook paper. Then, in part 2 of this assignment, partially to get you used to my grading system, but also partially just to, well, in large part, to allow you to identify where you need more practice, you're going to grade yourself using my rubrics, right? So what's going to happen is you're going to read through the rubric and you're going to say, okay, let's decide, am I at an expert, a proficient, developing, novice, or not yet? So you're going to look at now, see how I have solutions here. These are the problems you did above, and here are the solutions in red. And based upon that, you're going to check your work, and then you're going to decide, where am I at? Now, which of these levels of mastery? Okay, so I have that for each of the standards, standard 1, 2, and so on. And so there's all of this here. This assignment will take a while, so you want to start it more than just the day before the assessment. But if you do this whole assignment and use it to identify where you need more work, and then follow up by going and doing additional practice, using Newton Alta and things like that, you're going to feel a lot more confident going into the assessments. Right. Okay, so you might wonder, how does this all get translated into a letter grade? It's a very fair question. So the place I'll begin is I'll go back to our syllabus real quick. And in the syllabus, we scroll to page 3. This giant table here shows how it translates into a grade. Now, let's first of all separate Math 95 and Math 5. Remember, you get 2 separate grades for that. So Math 95 is standards 15 through 38. So standards 15 through 38, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all those standards and I'm going to see out of those standards, how many experts do you have? How many proficients do you have? And I'm just going to tally up all the different levels of mastery, and I'm going to consult this table. And so just to maybe give you a baseline to look at, I need 14 of these from 15 through 38 to have an expert or proficient. And I need 3 or fewer novices. Remember, that's a 1. A novice is a 1. 3 or fewer of those. And then you can make sure that you get a C. And no not yets after doing reassessments and things. And then so I'm just tallying up how many you have, and that's what determines your letter grade. For Math 5, here's the criteria. You get an S, a passing grade, if at least 8 of the standards are at proficient or expert, and no more than 2 of them are at a novice level of 1, and no not yets. And that's how you guarantee yourself a satisfactory grade. Now, it is true that if you don't quite achieve that for the standards 1 through 14 for Math 5, if you go on to pass Math 95, then you will get a S grade, a satisfactory in Math 5 kind of automatically. But this is the criteria to guarantee yourself a passing grade in Math 5, right? Now, that's all well and good, but it's not an easy table to read, and you can't really determine where your grade is at until the end of the quarter. So rather than consulting your syllabus, then what you're going to want to do throughout the course of this quarter is instead consult the grade projector. So let me click on the Math 95 grade projector here. And what it allows you to do is after each of the assessments that you take, you can type in what scores you have, and it will project out what it thinks your grade is going to be. Early on, so like after you've done 15 through 24, it's very volatile. So you look at this and you look, oh man, this is a pretty good set of scores, a whole bunch of fours, but notice it's saying I have a C. Well, how is that possible? Well, what's going on there is you got a 1 here, and so it's kind of inflating the effect that 1 is actually having. And so notice that if I just change that to a 2, for example, it goes all the way up to a B plus. So just understand that when you're using the grade projector, it's kind of assuming that you're going to continue at the same pace, and so it's kind of volatile. So if you're ever using the grade projector and it's showing you something that's kind of scary looking, make sure you talk to me about it first, instead of worrying too much, and I can kind of put it in context for you. The other thing to keep in mind, right, is even if you had this 1 here after taking those assessments, you very well may, well, what are you going to do? You're going to reassess on that, right? You're going to try to improve that. And so even if a 1 is sitting there right now, change that to 3, and then you're in good shape. All right. So I'm going to talk more about the grade projector as we go, reminding you how to use it and everything. But just know that there is a pretty convenient way to look at your grade and kind of say, what am I on pace to get right now? All right. So you saw in the syllabus and you saw the grade projector, how those scores get translated into a letter grade. There's 2 other aspects that we need to talk about. First, you're going to be doing all this homework, and you might be wondering, well, doesn't that affect my grade at all? So the answer is it does. So here's how it works. Standard 14 is the Math 5 homework completion standard. And what it simply says is this: if you complete 90 to 100% of your homework, you get a 4 or an expert. By the way, the numbers 43210, those are just shorthand for expert, proficient, developing, novice, not yet. So you get a free expert if you just basically do your homework. 80 to 90% you get proficient, and so on. So it does count towards your grade within the standards based grading system. So that's for Math 5. And then similarly for the Math 95 material, we scroll to the bottom, standard number 38 is the same thing for Math 95. So that's how your grade on homework factors into your overall grade. And then your last question might be, okay, do we have a final? The answer is yes, we do have a final exam. And it's very traditional final in the sense that some of the topics will appear on the final, some won't. Okay, so I prepared a kind of a demonstration of how it would work to take the final. So the first thing to know is for every standard, you'll have a score heading into the final exam. If you do better on the final exam than you had before the final, you get to keep the higher score. You get to keep the final exam score. So if you had a developing, which I shorthand as a 2 before the final, and on the final you get an expert, your overall score is now an expert in that standard. Even though you didn't basically achieve it till the very end of the quarter, doesn't matter. You're now an expert at that particular topic. Let's say standard 16. Let's say you had a proficient and I didn't ask, and there will be plenty of standards where I don't ask about it on the final, then you just keep whatever score you had before. Standard 17. Okay, what if you do worse? So let's say you did really well before on standard 17, you got a 4. I asked about it on the final, and you got a 2. This will be the one and only time during the quarter that I average. So 4 and a 2 averages to a 3, which would be a proficient. And then finally, even in a weird situation, let's say you had a proficient before and you got a little bit lower, you got a developing on the final, then those would, of course, 3 and 2 average to 2.5. What in the world does that mean? Well, that just means when I'm tallying up how many proficients, how many developings, you get half of a proficient and half of a developing. I'm doing that totally. The final exam, yes, it does have an effect on your grade. It can really help you, right? As in the case of standard 15. Yeah, it can hurt you a little. like in the case of Standard 17. So of course, studying for the final will be an important thing to do. I realize that this methodology of grading is going to be new to you. Like I said, objectively, I've studied this with my classes. Most students do really like it, but it does take a little bit of getting used to. So please don't hesitate to reach out and ask me questions as you have them about standards-based grading. This also won't be the last you'll hear from me on it. As we get closer to the first assessment, you will, I'll give you some reminders about what to expect on the assessment and then what to expect when you get grades back from me. But if you have any questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out.